let's take a look at all those buildings as a class. So we're going to start with different types of buildings just to give you the sticker price of each. Um, we'll start with the Walmart. Everybody's got a Walmart. So your Walmarts are averaging about 700,000. So down there on the lower left of the slide right here, we're going to go ahead and leave that sticker price there. Going forward to compare, we like to use Walmarts as a base because everybody's got a Walmart. So let's compare it to your residential. For residential, there's basically a few types of residential. There's low density, traditional, single family detached. There's this kind of middle density of commonly referred to as missing middle. Older cities, you see more of this stuff. It's the gentle density. It's the duplexes, the quads, the courtyard buildings. Then you have the higher density stuff, the bigger houses, row houses, multiplexes, six packs in the 1920s neighborhoods, things like that. And then, when you get closer to downtown, you're going to find the higher density stuff. The reason why that's called missing middle is zoning in most communities have zoned that middle stuff out of existence. They tended to be pretty prolific in the 1920s and 30s. And then because of the war and then, the Depression and then the war, they sort of fell out of construction favor and a lot of communities zoned them out. But they're starting to have a resurgence because they're kind of important. But back to your single family, your average single family value in High Point's about $400,000 an acre. That is double the county average at $200,000 an acre. So that is more potent. When you get into the missing middle stuff that you have around, these are some examples. Some multiplexes. The row houses that were built on the south side in Greensboro are a good example of a new intervention of missing middle at $8.2 million an acre. Now remember, your single family houses are coming in at $400,000, and so that row house is $8 million an acre. So that's a tremendous jump up. Even that duplex in Greensboro is pulling 3.3, and a duplex in High Point is at 1.3 million, which is what is that? 3 times the potency of your average single family. You also do have other examples. This is over at Hoover and Hay Street. There's 2 projects side by side. You have this 3 duplexes on the right versus this kind of courtyard of tiny homes. That courtyard is pulling about $600,000 of value per acre, which is 4 times the average of single family potency of the county. And those duplexes are even potent too, but the tiny homes are actually more potent. Again, doing the math on this stuff, it'll reveal a new way to look at your city. Now we're into multifamily, the larger buildings, the terrace apartments at about $1 million an acre, 510 Houston at $6 million. We put the Sheridan in here. This is something you all should be commended for because it's affordable senior housing. So you're taking care of seniors in your community in an old hotel. But look at the potency on that. So what's perceived as low income or affordable is still crushing it from a taxable basis at 9.8 million. And of course, the over in Greensboro, 605 Market Street, which is kind of a higher density, low rise development, is at 10 million. So you can have lower rise and higher potency with that development. So don't let your biases get in the way. Just do the math on this stuff to understand the potency and help have a better conversation about this. So just rolling it up on average from a Guilford County standpoint, single families about 200,000, missing middles about a little under $1 million an acre, multifamilies coming in at 1.7 million. Inside your community, however, look at how it tamps down in the multifamily or missing middle. So it's going to go back for a second. You're doing better in single family than them, than the countywide, but you have an opportunity to capture and cultivate that missing middle in the multifamily in your community. It's more that we just didn't have enough examples in the community that had that potency because you're primarily using right now single family. And this is, again, an opportunity for you all to capture that. Commercial, looking at Ocala Mall, y'all know that's not doing so well. It's $200,000 an acre for that. Most of it's closed. Southwood Square Shopping Center is about $500,000. Home Depot is about $800,000. Dollar General is $400,000. Bowling Alley is about 500,000. 600 Main's about 2 million. So that's doing better for the rug store. When you get into your Main Street buildings, now you start to see this huge step up. So you get to 13 million for 201 Main. American Home Furnishings is 16 million, and 405 North Elm Street is coming in at 25 million. Now we did an analysis project for you all. I think it was back in 2014. That 405 North Elm Street building did not exist back then, best that I can remember. So you can see that you're actually adding and doing some incredible value adds to your community. Okay, so just to roll it up, your low density commercial is coming in a little bit more than single family. Your medium density stuff is about $1 million an acre, and what you have on your Main Street countywide is coming in at 1.8 million. When you bring this into your world in High Point, it's a little bit less in each of these. At about 500,000 for low density, 800,000 for medium density, and 1.1 million for your kind of Main Street stuff. Oh, we couldn't resist. We had to grab this thing. Every community should have something like this, but it's non-taxable or showing up as exempt, and it really should be exempt because that's important. Anyway, it's a joke. This was a lot of fun. Okay, so we've done residential, commercial. Now let's get into mixed use. When you get into mixed use, you start mixing up your buildings. You really start to see the kick. These are the HTL Furniture Building at about 6 million an acre. South Elm Street, 515 Elm Street's coming in at about 18 million. Again, those three examples are all up in Greensboro, but there are things that could just as easily happen in High Point. The McGee Lofts at 19 million. And 532 South Elm at 20 million for that 3-story building. And obviously, yes, this thing here at 70 million or 71 million an acre is the tall spike in the model. Now your tall spike, again, not so shabby at 29 million an acre, which is crushing it. Part of the study was to also look at the industrial uses in your community. You have a long, proud heritage of industrial production, furniture craft. Now those buildings are going to be a different animal. You see them coming in at 200,000, 300,000. Not great because they're really big, cheap buildings consuming a lot of real estate. So they tend to dilute their value. The trade-off here is their jobs. You're going to get a lot more jobs out of these buildings. And they kind of are what they are. However, you do have a lot of first generation industrial buildings that are still kind of sitting there that could be repurposed and find a new life. So here's an example in Greensboro. This is an old industrial building that's now the Hidden Gate Brewing Company, and it's pulling 3.2 million an acre for a 1-story building. So as you look around, you have some of these examples. This High Point Market, that building that's kind of hiding in there. It's a historic piece of architecture that's been reused. It's pulling about $7 million an acre, and it's been with you for 100 years, more than 100 years. So think of that. This is your great grandparents didn't leave you buildings that were gone in 15 years. This is a point of pride in your community, and this is the value of historic preservation. Really, this is bringing you your wealth for multiple generations, and these buildings can be repurposed. They can be reused. They didn't start as a commercial space or an office space. They started as industrial. So again, you have a lot of that a lot of cities would relish, and you have that opportunity. Okay, so one of the things that we like to do is kind of put some buildings side by side so you can see the footprint and the opportunity, but also kind of rethink the way that you think of real estate. So this is the CAPA carpet store, or Kappa carpet store. That's its footprint. To show you by the same scale, this is the Walmart in High Point. That shows you how much land that Walmart takes just side by side. So if we're to do this let's do a quick little math problem. How many of the things on the left at 600,000, if we start gluing a bunch of them together, how long will it take for us to get to 4.9 million to make them equal? Well, it's about, if you'd had, was that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you had 6 of them, you would be at 4.3 million on 1.4 acres of land. So you're almost there with 6 of them on a lot less, you'd be on the same value, but a much less footprint. So again, this is like something to be mindful of, is that you can get to the same potency, the same financial punch by using a lot less land when you're more dense about it. But also, again, I want to keep on reiterating this kind of lasting value because of the history and legacy of your community. This is a shot of your main street in the 1920s, and here's that same shot today, or as close as we could get. But you can see these buildings here. Many of them were in that picture in the 1920s that are still with you today, kind of crushing it at 9.8 million, 5.8 million. And even like the newer buildings, the High Point Bank at 5 million. And it's that downtown density that produces that potency. Well, conversely, the opposite is true. If I waste your real estate with this huge parking lot, I get a bonus. I get a discount basically in the property. But also, you've been doing this to yourself a little bit much in your downtown. Looking at all the parking in the downtown, and we just did this quick little study. Here you are today in these parking lots that are kind of all over the place and parking on the streets. This is going to be, you might want to pause when I get to this next image, but you did start to decay your downtown in the 50s, which is typical in a lot of American cities, but you also wiped out a lot of buildings between 1958 and today that could have been with you. But again, you can't change that, but we'll come back to this in a second. All right, so just to recap, go back to that model. This is where like single family average is somewhere down there in the green. That's the industrial is averaging about 300,000. Your commercial is averaging about 600,000, which is like a Walmart. And that's it in the model. And then when you get in your main street, you're looking at 13 million, and that's your top one at 29 million. So this is just a roll up of everything that you've just seen kind of done in one image to give you an idea of where they all sit in your community. And there is a lesson. Productivity comes from density. It comes from the architecture as well. The better and more valuable the architecture on a smaller piece of land, the more productive it's going to be. So, here's where you are. And as I said, we did your model at 2014, and you actually have bumped up. But your North Street, your North Main Street is starting to thicken up a little bit versus where it used to be. So it's starting to climb up as well in potency. Your South Side is still pretty low compared to where you were the last time, but most of your neighborhoods haven't changed much, other than think of it like a shag carpet that's just kind of risen up a little bit. And most of your suburban neighborhoods are they are what they are. They're just not going to be that productive, and that's just the trade-off.